to see you all. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. It's great to be back in Surrey on the first day of advanced polls to talk about what a re-elected Liberal government will do to help young people get ahead. As you all know, before getting into politics, I was a high school teacher. And I remember how hard my students worked at the time to get into the college or university of their choice. That's what those last years of high school are all about for countless people across the country. It's the last big push to reach an important milestone. After all that hard work, students should be excited to head off to school. But for many young Canadians, that's just not the case. Between tuition, textbooks, rent, and bills, they have a lot more on their mind than getting good grades. They have to get a loan. In many cases, they have to find a job. They need an affordable place to live, and if you go to school in a city like Vancouver, that's much more difficult to do. On sait que les étudiants ont énormément de pression en ce moment. Notre parti libéral croit que ça fait partie du rôle du gouvernement de soutenir les gens qui sont aux études. That's why, during our first mandate, we took important steps to make post-secondary education more accessible and more affordable. We increased student grants by 50%. We made it so that no new grad has to start repaying their loan until they're making at least $25,000. We changed the rules for people on EI so they can go back to school without losing their benefits, and we cut interest rates on student loans. We're off to a great start, but we know we need to do more. These days, you need a college diploma or a university degree just to apply for many of the well-paying middle-class jobs that are out there. Education has never been more important, yet we keep hearing about students who have to drop out because they simply cannot afford it. Conservative politicians would like us to believe that the answer to this problem is more cuts and more austerity measures. In fact, they think that's the answer to everything. They don't seem to know the difference between spending and investing. I think that's a big mistake, especially when it comes to young people. Because when you invest in students, you're making sure Canada's middle class remains strong and growing. Les jeunes devraient passer la majorité de leur temps à étudier et à penser à ce qu'ils veulent faire dans la vie. Et surtout, ils devraient pouvoir profiter un peu de ces années précieuses qui passent trop vite. So here's what a Liberal government will do to help students with tuition costs and student debt. We'll start by further increasing student grants by 40%. These grants help students from low and middle income families cover the costs of their studies. When you combine this new change with increases made during our first mandate, the maximum Canada student grant will be $4,200 a year. For comparison's sake, under the old Conservative government, the maximum Canada student grant was just $2,000 a year. We will also do more to alleviate the financial pressures facing grads that often get in the way of young people joining the middle class. When you graduate, you should be focused on finding the right career path for you. But right now, too many people can't afford to explore their options. They'll take the first job they can get because they have to start paying off their student loans as quickly as possible. So, to give those who carry student loans a bit of breathing room, we will introduce a 2-year grace period following graduation. That means no payments and no interest when you first enter the job market. We're also going to change the rules so after that 2-year grace period, new grads don't have to start repaying their loans until they're earning at least $35,000 a year. And for new parents, we'll let them hit the pause button on repaying their loans until their kids reach 5. Any parent knows that when you have a baby, it doesn't matter how much planning you've done. You always end up having to cover extra costs you just didn't see coming, and it adds up. That's enough to worry about. You don't need to be thinking about paying off your student debt on top of everything else. Et finalement, pour aider les jeunes Canadiens avec leurs dépenses quotidiennes comme le loyer et les factures de cellulaire, un gouvernement libéral réélu fera 2 choses. We're going to cut cell phone bills by 25% in the next 2 years, and we're going to expand the first-time homebuyer incentive. We launched the incentive last spring, which provides Canadians with up to 10% off the purchase price of their first home. It was a big step in the right direction, but we know a lot of middle-class folks, especially young people, are still struggling to find housing in places like the Lower Mainland. So, a re-elected Liberal government will give more help to those living in the Greater Vancouver area by increasing the value of a qualifying home under the incentive program from approximately $500,000 to nearly $800,000. Now, these days, the Conservatives talk a big game about making life more affordable for Canadians. Let's not forget that they voted against the first-time homebuyer incentive when they had the chance. Under a Liberal government, we will continue to invest in families while finding new, innovative solutions to the challenges facing the middle class and people working hard to join it. Because at the end of the day, politics is about people. It's about you. And you deserve a government that fights for you and with you. Today, advance polls open. And as Canadians cast their ballots, they have an important choice to make. Will we go back to the failed policies of the past, or will we continue to move forward? That's the choice. It's that clear, and it's that important. I'm for moving forward. For students, for recent grads, for new parents, for everyone. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Mr. Trudeau, John Iveson, National Post. Central banks around the world are cutting rates. There are fears of a global recession. You've been criticised for having deficits that are quite large. Do you think that on balance might be a good thing if there is a slowdown because it might act as stimulus?
We made a very different choice than Conservatives in this election as we did in the last election. We know that investing in Canadians, investing in young people, investing in their education, as we're announcing here today, investing in young families and parents, investing in our seniors, supporting families with investments in infrastructure right across the country is actually the way to grow the economy, is the way to build resilience when the world is facing challenging times, by making sure we're giving people every opportunity to reach their full potentials. Conservatives propose cuts. Indeed, we just found out why. Andrew Scheer waited until the Friday night of a long weekend before finally releasing his platform. It's because it includes $53 billion in cuts. Cuts that will be even deeper than those Ontarians are going through with the Ford government. So our decision to invest in people has actually delivered for Canadians. Over 1 million new jobs created, most of them full-time, and we've lifted 900,000 people out of poverty. And that's the choice facing Canadians right now. Do we continue to invest in people and grow the economy? Or do we go back to cuts and austerity the way Stephen Harper used to do, the way Doug Ford and Jason Kenney are doing right now? Okay. Nous avons fait un choix très différent des conservateurs. Nous avons choisi d'investir dans les familles, dans les jeunes, dans les étudiants, dans les aînés, dans les travailleurs. Et ça a fonctionné. On a vu 1 million d'emplois créés à travers le pays, la plupart à temps plein, et on a vu 900 000 Canadiens sortis de la pauvreté. Et le contraste est clair avec les conservateurs qui veulent couper, et on comprend maintenant pourquoi les conservateurs ne voulaient pas partager leur cadre financier avant un vendredi soir d'une longue fin de semaine, parce qu'ils offrent 53 milliards de dollars en coupure aux services sur lesquels les Canadiens comptent et un retour à l'austérité des années Harper. Donc le choix auquel les gens font face est extrêmement important dans ces élections. Est-ce qu'on continue d'investir dans les gens, de créer de la croissance en investissant, ou est-ce qu'on retourne aux coupures et à l'austérité?
Mr. Trudeau.
Sorry,
Mr. Trudeau,
question right here.
Mr. Trudeau, if we do go into recession, would you be prepared to go further into deficit?
We've made responsible decisions around investing because we understand how important fiscal responsibility is. We are keeping the size of our debt decreasing as a ratio the size of our GDP. And at the same time, we have among the best balance sheets in the G7. There are only 2 countries that have AAA ratings by the top credit agencies, Canada and Germany in the G7. We know we have a responsible plan that has demonstrated growth that works for everyone, but we recognize there is more to do. And that choice of going ahead with $53 billion in cuts from the Conservatives or investments in families, in students, in seniors, is the choice facing Canadians in a week.
Je veux vous entendre, M. Trudeau, sur les moyens avancés par les conservateurs, c'est-à-dire, pour revenir à l'équilibre budgétaire en 5 ans, donc retarder certaines dépenses en infrastructure, éliminer des coûts de fonctionnement dans l'appareil gouvernemental. Ils veulent aller chercher des revenus dans la lutte contre l'évasion fiscale. N'y a-t-il pas, d'après vous, des mesures valides là-dedans pour assurer peut-être plus de certitude si l'économie devait ralentir?
Ça fait des semaines et des semaines qu'on est en campagne électorale. Ça fait des semaines que nous avions partagé notre cadre financier, notre plateforme. Les conservateurs ont attendu jusqu'à la dernière minute pour essayer de partager leur plateforme en catimini, parce qu'ils ne veulent pas que les gens voient à quel point ces 53 milliards de dollars de coupures qui vont infliger sur les Canadiens. Nous allons regarder attentivement où ils comptent couper, et je pense que les Canadiens aussi vont regarder attentivement toutes les coupures et l'austérité que nous offre ce Parti conservateur, et c'est donc important pour les Canadiens de faire le bon choix. Est-ce qu'on continue à investir et créer de la croissance en sortant les gens de la pauvreté et en créant des emplois? Ou est-ce qu'on retourne aux coupures dans les services et à l'austérité des années Harper?
M. Trudeau.
Okay. I think we've seen very clearly that Conservatives are proposing $53 billion worth of cuts, deeper cuts than even Doug Ford is putting forward. And that's why they waited until Friday night of a long weekend at the end of the election before sharing with Canadians their plan to cut services. The choice couldn't be clearer in this election. Do we continue to move forward on a plan that invests and grows the economy by helping people, by creating jobs and lifting people out of poverty? Or do we go back to the kinds of cuts and austerity that Stephen Harper inflicted on Canadians for 10 years?
Hier, vous avez dit que vous n'imposeriez jamais un pipeline au Québec. Est-ce donc dire que le Québec a un droit de veto?
Il n'y a pas d'acceptabilité sociale pour un oléoduc au Québec. On l'a constaté et nous n'allons jamais imposer.
And we're never going to impose a pipeline.
C'est le plan d'Andrew Scheer d'imposer un pipeline au Québec. We've seen that there is no public acceptability, no social acceptability for a pipeline in Quebec, and it is Andrew Scheer's plan to impose a pipeline in Quebec, not the Liberal plan.
Mr. Trudeau, you said last night during the French debate that you were okay with Quebec having the right to impose a Quebec values test in the selection process for immigrants. How is that different from what former Conservative leadership candidate Kelly Leitch was proposing, the Canadian test on values?
The Quebec government has a certificate of selection process that is entirely a Quebec-led process. It is their rules on who they grant that certificate to. It's different from permanent residency. It's different from citizenship. It is a process that is entirely Quebec jurisdiction within the Canada-Quebec Immigration Accords. They have the right to move forward on whatever criteria they want for that certificate of selection. It is within their responsibility. Okay. Le Québec a, dû aux accords sur l'immigration entre le Canada et le Québec, le contrôle sur comment ils veulent partager, comment ils veulent livrer les certificats de sélection. Ils ont le droit de choisir par quels critères ils vont décider qui méritera un certificat de sélection.
About values here and asking future immigrants about their values. What would you consider an inappropriate question on such a test, and would you be willing to intervene if there was such a question on the test?
I'm not going to get into hypotheticals on this one. That's a Quebec responsibility to deliver their certificate of selections.
Mr. Trudeau, Tom Perry with CBC. I'd like to ask you about the situation in Syria. What exactly is the government going to do to track or prevent the escape and return to Canada of Islamic State terrorists being held by Kurdish forces in Syria?
It is a crime in Canada to travel abroad for the purpose of supporting or engaging in terrorist activity. And we will ensure that the law is fully applied.
I know your government said that it won't help fighters return to Canada, but are there active steps that you would take to prevent them from returning to Canada?
We will continue to focus our efforts on stability and reconstruction in the region, even as we continue to hold strong against Daesh. Canada is leading a training mission for NATO in Baghdad, and we're going to continue to monitor the situation in the region very closely.
Would you try to prevent them, though, from returning to Canada?
Sir, you just a moment ago said that there's no social acceptability for a pipeline in Quebec, and for that reason, you will not impose a pipeline on the province. But here we've seen a lot of opposition to Trans Mountain. Why is it different? Why is the government willing to impose a pipeline on BC but not Quebec?
We worked with the government at the time to move forward with the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion. On s'est avancé avec le gouvernement provincial pour créer l'expansion de l'oléoduc Trans Mountain.
And so it doesn't matter what this current government thinks, it's because of the previous negotiations.
I have had many excellent conversations with Premier Horgan on the kinds of investments that we can make together to fight climate change, to grow the economy, to help British Columbians, and I look forward to continuing to work with Premier Horgan as a strong ally as we create opportunities for people and fight climate change.
Abigail Beeman, Global News. Since the Conservative platform was released, your party has been critical specifically on infrastructure cuts, and I'm wondering if you can square that with the criticisms your government has faced about spending a lot on infrastructure but not actually making those projects happen.
I think it is quite evident to Canadians right across the country, but particularly in areas where there are Conservative provincial premiers, that those Conservatives have been dragging their heels on investments in infrastructure. Here in British Columbia, where we have a great relationship with Premier Horgan, we've been able to move forward hand in glove on infrastructure investments, making a huge difference across the Lower Mainland, right across the province. But in a number of provinces with Conservative premiers, they don't believe in investing in infrastructure. They don't believe in investing for the future. So we will continue to work as necessary directly with municipalities as a way of delivering the much-needed infrastructure Canadians need right across the country, even when Conservative politicians, as they always do, offer cuts instead of investments.
Tonight you're making your second stop in Burnaby South. You made your major climate announcement there. I'm wondering what message you're sending to NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who
I
holds
am
the seat.
happy to be out across the country, happy to be back in the Lower Mainland, happy to be talking with Canadians right across the country about the important choice they have to make. Do we go back to the Harper approach with $53 billion of cuts announced in secret on a Friday night before a long weekend at the end of the campaign? Or do we keep moving forward on a plan to fight climate change, to strengthen gun control, to invest in families and make life more affordable for the middle class and those working hard to join it? Andrew Scheer's platform proposes cuts in taxes for the wealthiest. We're going to keep investing in the middle class and people working hard to join it.
Michelle Zilio with the Globe and Mail. Why have you only been to Alberta once during this election campaign?
I am happy to be out across the country. I was pleased to get to every single province in the first 10 days of the campaign, and over the last 10 days of the campaign, I will continue to make it out to as many communities as possible to highlight the contrast between a vision of Conservative premiers like Jason Kenney and Doug Ford and what Andrew Scheer proposes of $53 billion worth of cuts for people, and our plan to keep investing because it's what's working. It's what's working to lift people out of poverty, including 300,000 kids. It's what's working to see over 1 million new jobs created by Canadians, most of them full-time. And it's working to put in place the first real climate change plan in action that this country has ever seen.
Are you concerned that this single visit to the province of Alberta will play into the criticisms that you are ignoring the province?
I am continuing to engage right across the country, and Albertans know that we are serious about moving forward responsibly in fighting climate change and growing the economy. And there is a tremendous negativity out there from conservative premiers like Jason Kenney, and we're going to stay positive and offer not cuts and austerity, but investments that both fight climate change and build a stronger future for Canadians. That's the choice Canadians are facing.
Your candidate in Vancouver Granville, not that far from here, is in a very tight race against Jody Wilson-Raybould. That's one of the communities you haven't been to yet. Are you avoiding that riding so you don't remind people of the SNC-Lavalin affair?
We have a very big country with 338 ridings right across the country. I'm always pleased to get out to as many of them as possible and talk with Canadians directly about the choice they're facing in this election. Do we go back to the cuts of the Harper years, $53 billion worth of cuts announced on a Friday night of a long weekend at the end of the campaign in secret? Or do we move forward on continuing to invest in Canadians? I know that Canadians want to keep moving forward, and that's the choice they're facing 10 days from now.
Hi, Mr. Trudeau. Most of the polls are not giving a clear mandate to any of the party. So in case if your government comes in minority this time, then with which party will you take the initiative to tie up?
I know that Canadians are going to be gathering with their families this weekend at Thanksgiving and reflecting on the future of our country, reflecting on the important choice that they're facing. Are we going to continue to fight climate change? Are we going to continue to invest in families, in students, in seniors, in infrastructure that's going to grow the economy and help lift people out of poverty? Are we going to strengthen gun control? Or are we going to make a choice to go with the Conservatives and weaken gun control? I know families across the country will be having that conversation this weekend, and it's an important one. Do we choose forward, or do we go back to the Harper years?
Well, what is going to be your preference in going with any other party?
My preference is to have a strong, clear mandate that will allow us to stand up to those Conservative premiers from the Rockies to the Bay of Fundy who don't think we should be acting on climate change, who think cuts to services that Canadians rely on is the way to grow the economy, and continue to give tax breaks to the wealthiest instead of support to people who need them. The choice Canadians are facing is a really big one. And I know they're going to be talking with friends and families this weekend over turkey and family dinners and reflecting on whether we continue to move forward as a country or whether we go back to the failed approach of the Harper years.
Last question, down there, Justin.
I'm Daphne Bramham from the Vancouver Sun. You have just talked about raising the amount, the support for first-time home buyers so that they can qualify with $800,000. Can you talk about how you came up with that and what the rationale is when that program has been criticized for, in fact, putting young people at risk because they're going to be in over their heads, particularly if the mortgage rates and interest rates go up? And given my colleague John Iveson's concerns about the economy and all of our concerns about the economy in the future, does this not put them more at risk at being underwater in mortgages as things go forward?
We know that buying their first home is one of the most important decisions that young people will make. And we also know that right across the country, it is more and more difficult for young people to be able to buy their first home. That is why we created the first-time home buyers incentive that gives up to 10% of the value of your home in a tax-free upfront payment that will allow you to lower your monthly mortgage payments and afford to buy your home sooner. We brought in this in the 2019 budget, and it is already looked at extremely favorably as a concrete measure that will help families right across the country. But we heard very clearly that in certain areas, like the GTA, like the Greater Vancouver area, like Victoria, housing prices are so high that we needed to raise the amount of qualifying, the price of qualifying homes. That's why you were homes up to $800,000 will be available under this program. This is a program that will tangibly help young people be able to afford their first home, which, as we know, will serve them to build equity throughout their lives and have more confidence in their future and in their career paths.
Are you not concerned at all, though, that you're putting them at risk because they're getting in over their heads should those mortgage rates go up?
We made significant moves in making sure that affordability for housing is something that is important. We've moved forward in ways that have ensured that people can afford their homes, but we're also going to give them more money up front so that they can afford the home that is right for them. That's what Canadians expect, and that's, again, another example of the contrast people are facing in this election, the choice. Do we go with a government that is going to continue to invest in them and move forward, or do we go back to the Harper years? That's the question Canadians are asking themselves. Merci tout le monde.
All right, Peter Van Dusen watching along live with you, the Liberal leader.